The plate hit the table, and a sweet chemical smell flooded my nostrils. My daughter was smiling at me, but her eyes were cold, dead things. My favorite dinner sat in front of me, but I knew with chilling certainty that it was poisoned. Beside me, my son-in-law was clueless, just scrolling on his phone. I had exactly 1 second to make a choice that would either save my life or end his. So I switched the plates. Why did my own flesh and blood want me dead? The answer started 3 days earlier with a check for $200,000. The smell hit me like a freight train the second Sophia placed the plate in front of me. It was my favorite meal, chicken with a creamy mushroom sauce. But my gut screamed that something was dead wrong. A sweet, chemical odor, like cheap perfume mixed with bleach, snaked its way into my nostrils. I shot a look at my daughter, Sophia, who was forcing a smile so wide it looked painful. "I made it just for you, Mom," she said. Her voice was dripping with fake affection, and it sounded completely hollow. My son-in-law, Derek, sat right next to me, totally zoned out, just scrolling on his phone like he always did. He hadn't noticed a thing. With a slow, deliberate movement that I prayed no one would see, I switched my plate with his. An hour later, Derek collapsed, slamming face first onto the dining table, out cold. Sophia started screaming his name, this high-pitched, theatrical shriek echoing through the house. Her voice cracked as she shook him, but I wasn't fooled. I already knew the truth. My own daughter had just tried to poison me. My hands trembled as I watched the chaos unfold. The man who ate my dinner was completely motionless, his face a ghostly white, his lips turning a scary shade of purple. Sophia was putting on a big show, but her eyes didn't have the shock of a surprised wife. They had the pure panic of someone whose plan had just gone horribly, horribly wrong, the one person in the world you're supposed to trust. Can you imagine? If you've ever felt betrayed by someone you love, hit that subscribe button right now so you know you're not alone in this crazy world. For those of you who won't, I get it. Maybe you've never felt that sting. Tell me in the comments why you're lucky enough to still trust everyone in your life. It all started 3 days earlier. 3 days, all because I refused to give her the $200,000 she demanded for her business. She'd shown up at my house that Tuesday with a binder full of glossy charts and projections that looked way too good to be true. Her little clothing boutique was growing, she said, and she needed a huge chunk of capital to open 2 more stores. "Mom, it's a sure thing. In 2 years, I'll double your money," she insisted, flashing that smile that used to melt my heart. But this time her eyes gave her away. There was a raw desperation behind her peppy entrepreneur act. "Look, I didn't get to where I am by being a fool. I built my textile empire from the ground up after my husband passed away 15 years ago. I can smell bogus numbers and cooked books from a mile away." Her projections were a fantasy. But it was more than that. It was the way Derek watched her from the sofa, the way they shot each other little glances when they thought I wasn't looking. The red flags weren't just popping up, they were on fire. "Sophia, honey," I said, keeping my voice gentle. "Business and emotions don't mix. These numbers just don't add up for me." Her face dropped. The smile evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard mask I'd never seen before. "You don't trust me," she snapped, her voice getting shrill. That's when Derek stood up. "Mrs. Olivia," he said, his voice smooth but with an edge. "Sophia worked really hard on this. Maybe you could consider a portion of the money, just as a show of family support." It was the first time he'd ever dared to challenge me in my own home, and it felt like a threat. After they left, I couldn't sleep. Something was way off. Sophia had always been so proud, so independent. Why this sudden, desperate need for my money? And why was Derek pressuring me so hard? The next morning, I called my accountant, Robert. He's been my right-hand man for years and knows my gut feelings are never wrong. "Robert, I need you to quietly dig into the financials for Sophia's boutique," I said. "Something stinks here." The night before the special dinner, Robert called back. The news hit me like a ton of bricks. "Olivia, Sophia's boutique is bankrupt. She's over $300,000 in debt," he said. Then he dropped the real bombshell. "But it's worse than that. Derek has a massive gambling problem. He owes some very dangerous people a lot of money." My heart sank. My daughter was in serious trouble. Sitting there in my kitchen with the paramedics wheeling an unconscious Derek out of my house, it all clicked into place. They didn't want the money for a business. They needed it to save their own skins. And when I said no, they decided to get it another way. My own daughter tried to kill me to get her hands on my inheritance. 3 hours later, Sophia came back from the hospital, her eyes red, her mascara a mess. "The doctors don't know what happened," she said, her voice trembling. "They think it was some kind of poisoning." She sat across from me, right where Derek had collapsed, her hands shaking. "Mom, what exactly did you cook with?" she asked, trying to sound innocent. I looked her dead in the eye. "I didn't cook anything, Sophia. You made this special dinner for me, remember?" Her face went pale. "Why did you switch the plates, Mom?" she whispered, the desperation in her voice confirming everything. "Because it smelled wrong, honey," I said, my voice ice cold. There was something in that food that shouldn't have been there. She couldn't even look at me. "I don't know what you're talking about, Mom," she lied, fumbling with her phone. "You're just upset." I'd had enough. My instincts, the same ones that built my entire life, were screaming at me. "Sophia, look at me," I commanded. "Look me in the eye and tell me you didn't put something in my food." She glanced up for a split second. "Of course not, Mom. How could you think that? I love you." Every word was a lie, a line from a bad movie script. I replayed the last few years in my head. After Derek came along, she started changing. She became distant, secretive, obsessed with money. 6 months ago, she'd asked me, "Mom, have you ever felt trapped in your own life?" I thought she was just stressed, but now I realized it was a cry for help. Derek was controlling her, manipulating her, but that didn't excuse this. Trying to poison your own mother. That's a line you can never uncross. She was crying out for help and I missed it. I feel like such a fool. Don't ever let the people you care about feel this unheard. Subscribe to this channel as a promise to yourself that you'll always listen to your gut. If you think I'm overreacting, head to the comments and tell me why I should have just ignored the signs. The next morning she came back, looking like she'd been through a war. "The doctors think it was toxic plants," she said, staring at me. "Mom, do you have any poisonous plants in your garden?" She was fishing for a cover story, an excuse. "Enough, Sophia," I said, my voice like steel. "I know you tried to poison me." The mask fell. Pure panic took over her face. "You're crazy. You're making this up," she shrieked, but her trembling hands gave her away. "I know everything, Sophia," I finally yelled. "I know the boutique is broke. I know Derek owes money to loan sharks. I hired a private investigator. He owes over $500,000. She collapsed onto the sofa, sobbing. "Mom, you don't understand," she cried. "Those people, they were going to hurt us. It was Derek's idea. He said it would be quick, that you wouldn't suffer." My own daughter had planned my death. "What did you use, Sophia?" I whispered. "Oleander," she mumbled. "Ground oleander leaves. Derek said it would look like a heart attack." They had planned to inherit everything, the house, the company, the investments, to pay off their debts and start a new life. "But Mark pressured me," she wailed. "You are a grown woman," I roared. "No one pressures you into murdering your own mother. Please, Mom, don't call the police," she begged. "Just lend us the money and we'll disappear." Lend her the money? After she tried to kill me? "Are you even hearing yourself right now?" I screamed. "I'm your daughter, your only family," she cried, trying to guilt-trip me. "If you turn me in, you'll be all alone." That's when it became crystal clear. "Sophia, you destroyed our relationship the moment you chose poison over honesty. You made your choice." I walked to the door and threw it open. "Get out of my house. Now." It was the hardest decision of my life, kicking my own daughter out. Did I do the right thing? My heart is screaming. If you believe in doing the right thing, no matter how painful, subscribe and show your support. For those who think I should have just given her the money, go ahead, tear me apart in the comments. Tell me how I'm a terrible mother. I practically ran out of my own house, my heart pounding out of my chest, and ended up banging on my neighbor Carol's door. For 15 years, she's been the only person I could truly count on. "Carol, she tried to kill me," I sobbed as she pulled me inside. I told her everything, the money, the dinner, the plate swap, the confession. Carol's face grew dark. "Olivia, this is serious," she said, pacing her living room. "If she was willing to do it once, she'll try again. Now that you know the truth, you're a loose end. You can't go back to that house alone. But she's my daughter, I cried into a teacup. I'll be completely alone. Carol hugged me tight. You are not alone, she said fiercely. You have me. A mother's love does not mean you let your child murder you. Carol was right. I was in real danger. It makes you think, are you prepared for the worst? Are you really safe? If you want to be part of a community that looks out for each other, click subscribe now. It's a small click, but it means you're not facing things alone. Or, if you feel perfectly safe, tell me your secret in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. The next morning, Carol and I went back to my house. The place felt tainted, heavy with betrayal. In the kitchen, behind the spice rack, Carol found it. A small glass jar with Sophia's neat handwriting on the label, ground oleander. The physical proof. She really did it. Then we found the latex gloves in the trash and a to-do list for my murder in her old bedroom. A freaking list. Get fresh leaves, crush, opportunity, special dinner. Call ambulance after 30 minutes. But the worst part? In a manila envelope, we found copies of my will, my bank statements, and a letter she'd written to me, dated 3 weeks earlier. Carol read it aloud, her voice shaking with disgust. Dear Mum, if you're reading this, something went wrong with our plan. I want you to know I never wanted to hurt you, but your death was the only way to get the money quickly. The oleander will cause a heart attack that will seem natural. It was a complete how-to guide for murdering your mother and getting away with it. They'd even researched how to act like grieving relatives to avoid suspicion from the cops. That was it. There was no going back. We called a lawyer, Mr. Goldstein, and then we called the police. My home became a crime scene. The next morning, Detective Miller called. We've arrested Sophia, she said. She resisted at first, but when we showed her the evidence, she broke down completely. They also found a notebook at her house with backup plans for how to kill me if the poison didn't work. I went to the arraignment. I had to see her face. When they led her in, wearing an orange jumpsuit, she looked small and pathetic. But when her eyes met mine, there was no remorse, only pure, unfiltered hatred, as if this was all my fault. Are you really going to destroy your own family? She hissed at me. The prosecutor laid out the evidence, the jar, the letter, the internet searches. He told the judge it was a cold, calculated plot to get an inheritance of nearly $3 million. The judge looked at Sophia. Bail is denied, he said, and the gavel cracked like thunder. She screamed my name as they dragged her away, but for the first time in her life, I didn't run to save her. The next few months were a legal nightmare. We found out this wasn't Sophia's first rodeo. 2 years prior, she'd accidentally pushed Derek's mother down a flight of stairs, and Derek confessed that Sophia had planned to poison him too after she was done with me. So she could keep all the money for herself. She took a plea deal, 15 years for attempted murder, no parole. At the sentencing, the judge let me speak. I stood up and looked my daughter in the eye. Sophia, I said, my voice shaking but strong, I am not your mother anymore. A daughter who plans to murder her mother gives up that right. I asked the judge for a lifetime no-contact order. He granted it. As they led her away for the last time, she was silent. It was the last time I ever saw her. A year has passed. I sold my company and my old house. I bought a smaller place just down the street from Carol. Life without Sophia has been peaceful. For the first time in decades, I sleep through the night. I volunteer at a centre for victims of domestic violence, using my story to help others spot the patterns of manipulation I ignored for so long. The other day, I was going through old photos. I kept the ones of her as a little girl before she became this monster. The rest? Carol and I burned them in the fireplace. I lost my only daughter, but I found a true family in my friend Carol. It makes you realize who your real people are. If you value true friendship over blood ties that hurt you, hit subscribe. It's our way of saying we choose our family. If you disagree and think blood is always thicker than water, no matter what, I need to hear why in the comments below. Change my mind. Sophia tried to kill me for my money, but in the end, she gave me something far more valuable. She gave me my freedom. At 70 years old, I finally feel free. I have a real home, a safe place, surrounded by real love, and that's an inheritance you can't put a